Hi and welcome to Visual Art Photography. I'm Ray Scott. Today on Short Exposure, we're going to use the power of our sensor to increase the focal length of our telephoto lens. Okay, if you're a sports photographer or a wildlife photographer, you're going to need some long lenses, usually in the 600 to 1200 millimeter range. But if you're a landscape photographer, like I am, you only sometimes need a focal length longer than 200 millimeters. So what do? Do you go out and spend thousands of dollars on a 400 or 800 millimeter lens? I wouldn't, but what I do is I use the power of the sensor on my camera to pull in distant objects. It only happens for me maybe 2-3 times a year, but it really comes in handy. You know, we have these sensors in our DSLR cameras now that are, 15, 20, 35 megapixels. You don't really need all of that power unless you're printing huge mural size almost images. Usually 10, 12 megapixels is enough to print a beautiful image at 13 by 19 or 17 by 22, something like that, which is the size that most of us print at, let's be honest about it. But every now and then, you're out there in the neighborhood perhaps, you see something that's far away and 200 millimeters just doesn't cut it. That's where the power of your sensor comes in, and I'm going to show you how we do it right now.
Actually, this image is something that would be perfect for our neighborhood photographer series, but we're using it for short exposure today. And it would be perfect for neighborhood photographer because this shot was taken at the neighbor's place next door to me. So I was out on this March day, a little bit of snow in the tree here, you see that, and I'm hearing this tap tap sound, and it's this really big woodpecker. I think they're called pileated or pileated woodpeckers. Anyway, he's working on this tree, and my longest lens is a 70 to 200 millimeter lens. It's all I ever use, except maybe 2 or 3 times a year. In a case like this, I really needed to pull this in closer. This is what I got at 200 millimeter. It really wasn't close enough. But I took the picture anyway because I knew I had a 20 megapixel sensor in my camera, and I knew that I could crop this and make it appear that it was closer. So this was the image, the raw image. Woodpecker's not really showing up that well. The lighting wasn't great either, so I had to work on that. Here's the final product. Look at that. That woodpecker looks like it was taken with something that was maybe 600 millimeters. The only way you can tell it wasn't is because of the background over here. It would be more blurry if I had had a longer lens. But I didn't. And what I chose to do with all of this in the background was kind of darken it, and then I lightened the subject and the area right around the woodpecker to highlight it, of course. Now, this is short exposure, so it's not really about how I got to the final product. This one's about how you can use the sensor to make it appear like you have a longer focal length lens. But I will say quickly that coming in, it looked like that. And then I used some Nik software in this. I used Define, which is a noise reduction program, Viveza, which is a color and tonality program. I actually used Silver Effects Pro 2, which is a black and white program, and I used it because I wanted to add a little more detail to it all. And then you'll notice that in the blend modes, I use luminosity, and that blend mode lets the color come through, so the black and white. See, if I put it on normal, it would be almost black and white. Actually, it's at 60% opacity, so let's move it up to 100, and you've got black and white. But if you move it down 60% for the effect and change the blend mode to luminosity, which is way down here at the bottom, then you get the tonality, but the color still comes through. A little bit of cleaning up for that layer, some vignette, and a little bit more vignette to darken the background. The distraction is gone. Focus is on the woodpecker. So there you have it. A way to lengthen the focal length of your lens by using the power of your sensor.
Thanks for joining me on Short Exposure today. Until next time, remember, it's not what you see, it's how you see it.